Hi Math Soldiers, welcome to another boot camp. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers. Now let me start with two examples. Let's say I have 2 over 7 plus 3 over 7. And then another example, 5 over 6 plus 2 over 9. Now what is the difference between these two examples? In the first example, I have two fractions adding each other with the same denominator. And in the second example, I have two fractions adding each other with different denominators. Now in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to add or subtract fractions and mixed numbers with same denominators and different denominators. Before I go ahead and solve these problems, first I want to show you guys the rules for each of these problems. When adding or subtracting fractions and mixed numbers with the same denominator, we add or subtract the top and bring down the common denominator. One more thing that I want you guys to know is that if you're adding or subtracting mixed numbers, first you have to convert them into improper fractions and then add them or subtract them. If you don't know how to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions, please go watch our lesson 3 where we explain everything in details. Let me go ahead and start with example 1. I'm going to do the same example that I started in the beginning of the video, 2 over 7 plus 3 over 7. Now in this example, I have two fractions adding each other with the same denominator, right? So what I have to do is I have to keep that denominator, 7, and then add the top, 2 plus 3. So 2 plus 3 is 5 over 7. I cannot simplify that, so the answer is just 5 over 7. I want to show you guys something. I want to show you that all your lives you've been dealing with fractions, you just didn't know that. Let's say you had 5 plus 3. You know that 5 plus 3 is just 8, right? But how can you make 5 and 3 as a fraction? You can make any number as a fraction by putting it over 1. Why though? Because 5 over 1 is just 5 divided by 1, which is 5, and 3 over 1 is 3 divided by 1, which is just 3. So now you have two fractions adding each other with the same denominator. So if you apply this rule right here, you're going to know that when we have the same denominator, you just keep that denominator and then you add the top, 5 plus 3. So 5 plus 3 is 8 over 1. Now 8 over 1 is just 8 divided by 1, which is 8. So 5 plus 3 is 8. But you can make 5 plus 3 as a fraction as 5 over 1 plus 3 over 1, and then apply this rule over here, and then you get the same answer, which is 8. Now let me go ahead and do another example. Example 2. Let's say I have 8 over 6 minus 3 over 6. So you're subtracting two fractions with the same denominator. You have to apply the same rule. You keep the denominator the same, and then subtract the top. 8 minus 3 is 5 over 6. I cannot simplify that, so the answer is just 5 over 6. Let me do another problem. Problem 3. 2 over 3 plus 1 over 3 minus 7 over 3. So I have three fractions adding and subtracting each other with the same denominator, so it's the same thing. I'm going to have to keep the denominator and then subtract the top. 2 plus 1 minus 7. So I have 2 plus 1 is 3 minus 7 is negative 4 over 3. Now let me do an example with mixed numbers. Let's say I have 7 1/4 minus 5 2/4. So before I go ahead and I subtract these two mixed numbers, first I have to convert them into improper fractions. So again, if you guys don't know how to convert mixed numbers to improper fractions, please go watch our lesson 3. We explain everything in details. So the 4 here is multiplying the 7 and adding the 1, and the 4 here is multiplying the 5 and adding the 2. So I have 4 times 7, which is 28, plus 1 is 29. So 29 over 4 minus 4 times 5 is 20 plus 2 is 22. 22 over 4. So now I have two fractions subtracting each other with the same denominator. I keep that denominator and I subtract 29 minus 22. The answer is going to be 7 over 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and do another example with mixed numbers and fractions adding and subtracting each other. Example 5, 4, 5 over 6 plus 8 over 6 minus 2, 1 over 6. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and convert mixed numbers to improper fractions. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 5 is 29, plus 8 over 6, minus 6 times 2 is 12, plus 1 is 13, 13 over 6. Now I have three fractions with the same denominator. I'm going to keep that denominator and then add or subtract the top. 29 plus 8 minus 13. 29 plus 8 is 37, minus 13 is 24. So I have 24 over 6. Now I can reduce this. If you guys don't know how to simplify fractions, please go ahead and watch our lesson 3 where we explain everything in details on how to simplify fractions. Now in this case, I'm going to divide by 6 top and bottom. Now I have 24 divided by 6, which is 4. 6 divided by 6 is 1. So the answer is 4 over 1, which is 4 divided by 1. The answer is just 4. So that's how we add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers with the same denominator. Now I'm going to show you guys how to add and subtract fractions and mixed numbers with different denominators. When adding or subtracting fractions and mixed numbers with different denominators, we have to follow these steps. The first step is you have to find the LCD, which is the least common multiple of the denominators, and then rewrite each fraction to have the LCD as the denominators, combine the top, and then of course reduce if needed. Problem 1. Let's say I have 5 over 6 plus 2 over 9. So in this case, I have two fractions adding each other with different denominators. So the first thing that I have to do, I have to find the LCD, which is the least common multiple of the denominators. How do I do that? Let me go ahead and list the multiples of the denominators, which is the multiples of 6 and multiples of 9. So multiples of 6 and multiples of 9. Now, what do I mean by multiples? How do I list the multiples? Just think of it as the multiplication table. 6 times 1 is 6, 6 times 2 is 12, 6 times 3 is 18, 6 times 4 is 24, 6 times 5 is 30, 6 times 6 is 36, and I'm going to stop here, but of course you can keep going if you want to. Now another way on how to find the multiples, you can just add the number to itself. So 6 plus 6 is 12, plus 6 is 18, plus 6 is 24, plus 6 is 30, plus 6 is 36. Now let's go ahead and find the multiples of 9. Are 9 plus 9, 18, plus 9, 27, plus 9 is 36, 45, and then I'm going to stop over here. Now let's find the common multiple that 6 and 9 have. So the common multiple that they have is 18. But they also have 36, right? So now which one do I choose for my LCD? Do I choose 18 or do I choose 36? If you go back to the steps, it says find the LCD, which means the least common multiple of the denominators. So we have to choose the least common multiple, which in this case is 18. There's nothing wrong with you guys choosing 36. But if you choose 36, after you add the fractions, you're going to have to reduce it. So if you choose 36, you're going to end up doing more work. So that's why we always have to choose the least common multiple, which in this case is 18. So the LCD is 18. So we found the LCD, which is 18, and we're done with step 1. Now let's go to step 2. Step 2 says, rewrite each fraction to have the LCD as the denominators. So I'm going to rewrite each fraction, and in the denominator, I'm going to put the LCD that we just found, which is 18. Now what do I put on top? So let's look at the first fraction. The denominator was 6, and I made the denominator 18. So how do I make 6 as an 18? What do I multiply it with? If you don't know that number, then you can go back to the list and start counting down the list from the 6 here down to the LCD that we just found, which is 1, 2, 3. So to make 6, 18, you have to multiply by 3. And if you multiply the 6 by 3, you have to multiply the top as well by 3. So 6 times 3 is 18. 5 times 3 is 15. So we have 15 over 18. The same thing with 2 over 9. How do we make this 9 as 18? We have to multiply it by a number. If we don't know that number, we go back to the list and we start counting down from 9 up to the LCD. 1, 2. So to make 9 18, we have to multiply it by 2. And if we multiply the 9 by 2, we have to multiply the top by 2 as well. So 9 times 2 is 18. 2 times 2 is 4. Okay, so now we're done with step 2. We rewrote each fraction to have the LCD as the denominators. Now let's go to step 3. Step 3 says combine the top. Now we have two fractions adding each other with the same denominator. And as I explained it to you guys, when you have the same denominator, you keep that denominator and you just add the top. So 15 plus 4. Now we have 15 plus 4 over 18. 15 plus 4 is 19 over 18. Step 4 says reduce if needed. So we have 19 over 18. Can we reduce that? No, we can't, so we don't have to do step 4. So the answer is just 19 over 18. I'm going to go ahead and do another problem. Problem 2. Now before I go ahead and solve this problem, I see that I have a 2 here. And I'm going to make this 2 as a fraction. How do I make it as a fraction? By putting it over 1. So now I have 3 fractions adding and subtracting each other with 3 different denominators. So the first thing that I have to do is I have to find the LCD. How do I do that? I'm going to list the multiples of 1, 8, and 4. 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and I'm going to stop there. You can continue if you want to, but you don't have to. Now let's find the multiples of 8. 8 plus 8 is 16, plus 8 is 24, plus 8 is 32, and I'm going to stop there. And the multiples of 4 are 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 4 is 12, plus 4 is 16, plus 4 is 20, and I'm going to stop there. Now what is the multiple that they all have in common? Now remember, it has to be the least common multiple. So it's 8, right? They all have in common 8. Now the LCD is 8. So I'm done with the first step. I found the LCD, which is 8. Now I'm going to do step 2, where I have to rewrite the fractions. And in the denominator, I'm going to put the LCD that we just found, which is 8. Now how do I find the top? So to make this one 8, I have to multiply it by a number. If I don't know that number, the list is going to help me. I'm going to start counting down from 1 up to the LCD that I just found. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So to make this 1, 8, I have to multiply by 8. But if I multiply 1 by 8, I have to multiply the top by 8 as well. So 1 times 8 is 8, 2 times 8 is 16. The first fraction is 16 over 8. So in the second fraction, I have 8 here. And my LCD is 8 as well. So 8 times what gives me 8? And if you don't know that, just go back to the list and just start counting down. In this case, you're only counting by 1, right? 1. So 8 times what gives me 8? 8 times 1 gives me 8. If I'm multiplying by 1, I have to multiply by 1 on the top as well. If you're multiplying by 1, nothing is changing, right? 8 times 1 is 8. 3 times 1 is 3. So the second fraction is just staying the same, 3 over 8. And now the third fraction. To make this 4, 8, I have to multiply by a number. Let's go to the list. If you know that number, just multiply right away. If you don't know the number, just go back to the list and start counting down up to the LCD. So 1, 2. So you have to multiply by 2. And if you multiply the bottom, you multiply the top as well. Now 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. So now I'm done with step 2. I rewrote each fraction with the LCD of 8. Now I'm going to do step 3 where I'm going to combine the top. In this case, I have 3 fractions, adding and subtracting each other with the same denominator. So what do we do when we have the same denominator? We just keep that denominator and we combine the top. So we have 16 plus 3 minus 10. So 16 plus 3 is 19, minus 10 is 9. So we have 9 over 8. And can we reduce that? No, we can't. So the answer is just 9 over 8. Let me go ahead and do another problem. Let's say I have 1 plus 3 over 5. Now this problem is very important. I want to show you guys how to add a number 1 with a fraction. What is the easiest way to do that? Now you might say, okay, I'm going to make the 1 as a fraction by putting it over 1. And now I have 2 denominators, which is 1 and 5. I'm going to go ahead and find the multiples and find the least common denominator and then add them. But I want to show you guys a shorter way that anytime you're adding number 1 with a fraction, this is how you should do it. Now 1 can be anything, right? Now 1 can be what? 1 over 1 is 1, right? 2 over 2, it can be 3 over 3, it can be 4 over 4, 5 over 5, and so on, right? Because the fraction is just a division. So if you divide 2 divided by 2 is 1, 3 divided by 3 is 1, 4 divided by 4 is 1, 5 divided by 5 is 1. So let's try to write this 1 as a fraction that has a denominator of 5, right? Because that way you're going to be adding 2 fractions with the same denominator. So I'm going to write this 1 here as 5 over 5, right? Because 5 over 5 is just 5 divided by 5, which is 1. So instead of 1, I'm writing it as 5 over 5. So because 5 over 5 is 1. So now I'm adding 5 over 5 plus 3 over 5. And I have 2 fractions with the same denominator. I'm going to keep that denominator. And I'm going to add the top. 5 plus 3, which is 5 plus 3 is 8 over 5. So anytime you add 1 with any type of fraction, you can always use this method. Let's say you have 1 minus 39 over 7. So I'm going to write the 1 as 7 over 7 minus 39 over 7. Now I have 2 fractions subtracting each other with the same denominator. I'm going to keep that denominator and just subtract the top. 7 minus 39, which is negative 32 over 7. So that was the easiest way on how to add 1 to a fraction or how to subtract it. It can also work with mixed numbers as well. You just convert that mixed number into an improper fraction and then you do the same thing. Now let me do another example. Now I'm going to do a problem with mixed numbers. Let's say I have 5, 1 over 4, plus 3, 1 over 2. But before I go ahead and start, first I'm going to convert the mixed numbers into an improper fraction. So I have 4 times 5 is 20 plus 1 is 21. So 21 over 4 plus 2 times 3 is 6 plus 1 is 7. So 7 over 2. Now I'm going to find the multiples of 4 and 2. 4 plus 4 is 8 plus 4 is 12. 16, 20, and I'm going to stop there. Now I have 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 2 is 6, 8, 10, 12. I'm going to stop there. So what is the multiple that they have in common? They have 4. They also have 8 in common, right? But we don't care because we only need the least common multiple. So we always try to choose the least common multiple, which in this case is 4. Now I'm going to rewrite each fraction. In the denominator, I'm going to write the LCD, which is 4. So the first fraction is 21 over 4, but the LCD that we just found is 4. So all you have to do is multiply by 1 on the bottom and on top. So 4 times 1 is 4. 21 times 1 is 21. Now to make this 2 4, we have to multiply by a number. Let's go to the list and start counting down. 1, 2. So we multiply by 2. If we multiply on the bottom, we have to multiply on top as well. Now 2 times 2 is 4. 7 times 2 is 14. So now we have 21 over 4 plus 14 over 4. So we just keep that denominator, which is 4, and combine the top, which is 21 plus 14. 21 plus 14 is 35 over 4. We cannot reduce that, so the answer is just 35 over 4. Let me do another problem. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to make 8 as a fraction by putting it over 1. Convert the mixed numbers to improper fractions. Now I'm going to go ahead and list the multiples of 1, 10, and 5. Now what is the least common multiple here? What do they all have in common? They have 10. So the LCD is 10. I'm going to put in the denominator 10. How do I make this 1 as a 10? I multiply it by, let's count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I multiply by 10 on the bottom and on the top as well. So 1 times 10 is 10. 8 times 10 is 80. Now I have 10 here and 10 here to multiply by 1. So 10 times 1 is 10, and 107 times 1 is 107. Now how do I make this 5 as a 10? I multiply by a number. Let's go to the list. Let's count down. 1, 2. So I multiply by 2 on the bottom and by 2 on top. Now 5 times 2 is 10. 22 times 2 is 44. So now I have 3 fractions, subtracting and adding each other with the same denominator. I keep that same denominator and I combine the top. 80 minus 107 plus 44. 80 minus 107 is negative 27 plus 44 over 10. So negative 27 plus 44 is 17. If you guys don't know how to add numbers with same signs and different signs, please go ahead and watch our lesson 1. So I'm going to write it over here. Over 10. I cannot simplify this, so the answer is just 17 over 10. So that was the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next bootcamp.